Jarvis got lit another one.
Yo, what's good, man? You are now back RTTV, baby.
Gang, gang, gang.
And if it's your first time here, definitely gonna be your last. Make sure you kill, murder, and
Smash
that subscribe button, man. And we are back with another Easter egg for Moon Knight Season 1, Episode 4 with the new Rockstars.
Yes, sir.
Man, this episode of Moon Knight was definitely the trippiest yet. It sent you in that last 10 minutes of what the fuck journey. It was like we watched all this historical things happen. We see Steven really find the
What are you working for?
I forgot what it was called. The actual thing he pulled out of
Scarab? No, it's Scarab.
No, it's not the Scarab. It's the thing that he pulled out of
Alexander the Great.
Wasn't it amidst that statue?
Yeah, it's amidst thing, but I forgot what they actually call it.
Yeah.
He found that and he was ready to kind of finish this whole thing up. And Layla's like, Mark! And she knocked the mark out of him and was like, you killed my dad? Mm-hmm. He was like, nah, but I know who killed your dad. And now we're like, Mark got shot in the chest.
Yep, by Arthur.
Did he die? We don't know. Send him to the loony bin.
Yep.
And now we're trying to figure out, is he actually there? Is he not there? He's in the mental institution. Is he actually home? Where is he right now?
Who's the hippo?
Let's find out right now, man. Let's get into it, man. New Rockstar Season 1, Episode 4, Easter Eggs and Breakdown.
That wasn't there. Eric's boss!
Yeah, man.
He's back!
Which, like Mark and Steven, made me scream, holy hippopotamus! Turns out I wasn't that delusional for thinking some of this could be all in Steven's mind. Or could I still be delusional? Probably still a bit delusional. I mean, who knows what's going on? So I'm going to break down this episode shot by shot for the interesting details you might have missed to best explain one of the wildest twists we've ever seen in the MCU. So we begin this episode upside down as the avatar for Osiris places Khonshu's Ushapti in a cubbyhole among several
Ushapti,
others,
that's what it's called.
Only finally orients righting itself on this close-up Khonshu, making him our compass, our true north for what is real this whole episode. Because without him this hour, Mark, Steve, and all of us are lost. I like how Osiris' avatar takes this uncertain beat after placing Ushapti, since they have clearly stonified a ton of deities, not a healthy sign, like a warhead wondering, everyone is now in prison. Are the laws too strict? No, it's everyone else who's wrong. Also, Osiris may be wondering if he could be the next one. Among these figurines, there are a whole bunch of them. One with curved horns, another shorter one to the far left. A lot of these look like the larger statues among the
That shorter one looks like the hippo.
towering over them. I wonder if the 5 members of the Ennead may have Ushapti their ranking elders like Atu and Shu. That could explain why 4 of the 9 Ennead members are missing. I also think Taweret may be among these figures.
Taweret, that's the name.
To the final scene, especially because in the closing credits of every episode on the back right, a Taweret Ushapti appears alongside these others, which fill in the cubby holes we see in the opening shot. That tells us that Taweret must be banished, which is a very important key to how we interpret the final scene. Throughout this opening scene, we hear several voices chanting. As if these trapped gods and statues are all haunting Osiris, demanding to be freed. Then out in the desert, a scarab crawls up a mound and flies off. Now the scarab was, of course, the compass that was used to find Amit's Ushapti. And now even this scarab compass is like, peace out, you mortals. So now the hieroglyphics on that scarab were translated to the phrase Okepri amid his foes, primeval one.
Oh, you end up translating it?
May you rescue Osiris, Amenhotep, true of voice. Khepri being the sun deity represented by the scarab, which Egyptians associated with the way it rolled its dung across the sand with the way Khepri rolled the sun across the sky. Now remember last episode, Steven joined Khonshu in casting that illusion to make the heavens look like they did 2,000 years prior. And when that happened, a little detail I liked, Steven's Mr. Knight mask wilted away, matching Khonshu's dissipation. Just a cool way of showing how Steven was losing a part of himself as well, no longer having the armor and healing properties that really would have come in handy when Arthur shot him twice in the chest. But a detail that I loved here, whereas past episodes the crescent moon always shined to reflect Khonshu being at its most powerful, now notice how the moon is in its waxing gibbous phase, the exact opposite of the waning crescent in the lunar cycle. Just a cool way of showing Khonshu's inverted, totally weakened state now. Actually, by the way, in the credits of every episode of the season,
That's dope.
Jurassic
Yeah,
Park
right?
Dr. Alan Grant and lights a flare to direct Harrow's men away
Jurassic
from
Park.
Steven, and then insanely throws another lit flare into their box of shells to set them all off like fireworks. Even though in the shot from behind her, she's clearly totally exposed to all of those projectiles, as is Steven. Folks,
Facts.
Indiana Jones' antics go way over the top this episode.
Flare,
I
fruit.
think it is by design to suggest Mark could be pulling all this from his Tomb Buster movie. Actually, as they drive into the desert the next morning, these locations were the same parts of Jordan where they shot Indiana Jones' The Last Crusade. So that familiarity is totally intentional.
Interesting.
Meanwhile, May Callum always look in this show and the way she plays Layla definitely evokes Rachel Weisz from the Mummy movies.
Oh my God, you said that,
Yeah.
yeah.
And somebody said that she was white, son. I remember I said that.
The thing I said, but I still said she looked like.
The camera lingers on these 3 bullet holes in the windshield, which you could see as representative of the 3 altars we think make up Mark's mind. The way that the holes can be in there without breaking or shattering the whole thing, because Mark is not broken. Those 3 altars
Wow.
we assume are Mark, Steven, and Jake Lockley. As of this episode, we have not yet met Jake.
I'm about to say, who the hell is Jake?
Remember how we keep saying it's a third one that we haven't met? They keep assuming it's him.
What's that moment with Steven and Hero in episode 2? Yes. Where there is a goat, there is a hero. Now, when Steven
what?
initially wants to
Where
make
there's a
move
goat,
on
there's a
Layla,
hero.
Mark punches his own face in
Over
the
your head.
jaw. Oh, shit. Another Fight Club reference, Tyler Durden does essentially the same thing.
Yeah, I remember that.
Then after going back and forth with Layla, Steven finally makes his move, and it is awkward.
It is awkward.
Yes, you totally misinterpreted down to mean not belay, but another kind of down, a sex kind. Steven,
Like the Eric Voss, yeah.
I can't even. If they just sprang to life right now and asked me a riddle for passage, I'd be thrilled. I shit myself, but I'd be thrilled.
Yes,
I
he's
shit
referring to
myself.
the riddle of the Sphinx. The Sphinx being the creature with the haunches of a lion, the wings of a bird. It's best known from Greek mythology, where it has the head of a woman, but in Egyptian mythology, it has the head of a man. To the Greeks, it guards the city of Thebes, where it posed the riddle to Oedipus. What creature has one voice, yet becomes 4-footed, and then 2-footed, and then 3-footed? And Oedipus answered correctly, man, who crawls on all fours as a baby, walks on 2 feet as an adult, and uses a walking stick in old age. 3 beings in
I
one
don't remember
also
that.
parallels Mark and his altars, each of whom have a different stride, yet speak in one voice. And one cannot help but draw a connection to the caned figure of Arthur Hera, who is this episode using his walking stick. This is also, of course, a big clue for the reveal of Alexander the Great. For the way Egyptian iconography and obelisks and sphinxes made their way into Greece was because of Alexander's occupation of Egypt and his obsession with Egypt. In the sand, Layla traces the Arabic letters, going from right to left, because that's how Arabic works, Ayn and Elif, her father's initials. As we saw her full name on her passport last episode, Layla Abdallah El Faouli. Abdallah meaning servant of God, which is a bit ironic because Mark is trying to keep her from being
Yeah,
a servant
right?
of God. While exploring
That's
the
true.
tunnels, Layla says, of course, since this episode ends by suggesting much of this could have been all in Mark's mind, it's worth noting that the concept of a maze has often been considered a symbol of the subconscious mind, back to Greek mythology, the labyrinth, and then manifesting in contemporary media like Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, Westworld, and the amazing series Severance.
Oh, your fucking movie, show
This
Westworld.
maze represents Mark's mind, perhaps the 6 paths representing as many as 6 altars stored inside. But
Oh,
Stanley
hell
set
no.
the structure to show how this is modeled on the Eye of Horus and its 6 parts, citing the symbol that some historians interpret to represent the 6 senses of thought, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. According to
That's
mythology,
lit.
Horus's right eye was the sun, and the left eye, the moon. And this is his left eye here. So the moon is always present in this show. But in the mythology, there was a fight between Horus and his brother Set, and Set tore out the eye, and the eye is later healed and restored either by Tot or by Hathor, whom we met last episode, which is why the symbol now represents healing and protection. I just like how when Steven clears the sand to trace this, his flashlight now reflects off of the metallic surface beneath to form the Eye of Horus
Oh,
on the
yeah.
ceiling above them, as if either Horus or Hathor could be watching over the deeds here, or this represents the moon that Khonshu is watching all of this. Then they come across this mummification chamber used by these undead priests who are buried alongside the pharaoh. On the upper level, Mark finds some stuff that he says was used in regeneration rituals, which all just leads to this gore fest in the middle of the episode where the priest extracts organs from Pharaoh's man and tries to do it to Mark and Layla. Who knows why he's doing this? Layla comes across this gaping pit, reminding us of the chasm that Indiana Jones has to make the leap of faith across in The Last Crusade. she's
Yeah, a lot of Indiana Jones references.
her faith and her love for Mark, despite the bad stuff he was involved with. She has to fend off this priest monster by ripping off his arm and shoving a flare in his face. She loves her.
I didn't even know she ripped off his arm.
On this one. Now this zombie
Yeah,
priest
she loves her flares.
which comes up pretty creepy, but this is actually the result of his tongue being removed from the embalming process. Also, assuming his eyes were removed in that process as well, the clicking allows him to echolocate his targets around the tomb. Way bats use similar clicking sounds. And when his hand reaches out of the wall at Layla, it's very similar to the frame of the corpse hand reaching into the subway door in the comics when Mark's mental hospital reality warps around him. Meanwhile, Steven finds some Macedonian language on the foot of the tomb. Actually, if you translate the back half of those letters, they really translate to Alexander, confirming
Oh,
this
shit.
discovery for Steven.
We're looking at the long-lost tomb of Alexander the Great.
Whoa! So, Alexander the Great, you should know this guy. He was the one who, by the age of 30, led the Greeks to rule over one of the largest empires in human history, from Europe to India. Alexander was a lover of Egyptian history, who also bore the title of Pharaoh. He founded the city of Alexandria, where many believe after his death in Babylon in 323 BC, he could now be buried somewhere in the city of Alexandria. But his tomb has never been pinpointed and verified. So, unless this is all a fantasy, and that might actually be the case, the implication here is that Alexander the Great, in the history of the MCU, was the final avatar of Ammit, and that Alexander's military feats might
That
have
makes
been
it
the
more seem like it's an illusion, though, because of the fact that people always wanted to find this tomb.
Kind of cult following that Arthur Harrow now enjoys. Famously, the saying goes that Alexander wept because there were no worlds left to conquer. Therefore, Alexander might have been that past avatar who betrayed Ammit. He could have been the one who sold her out to the gods, and her detachment from him is what led to his death in Babylon. After which point the Ennead said, Ammit, you have helped out humanity way too much. No one should have conquered that much turf. You a statue. And then had someone
You a statue.
You wanted to be a voice eater! Eater! Like Alexander's chest is a scarab necklace with its wings open, evoking Harrow's scarab compass that he uses to find her, X marking the spot for Ammit's Ushabti, which is buried deep in Alexander's gullet. Alexander's axe that he's holding might have actually been the one he famously used to cut the Gordian knot. But Harrow reveals to Layla that Mark was among the mercenaries who killed her father, and she confronts him.
I'm talking to you, Mark.
Knock the mark out of him.
Yeah, Steven immediately notes out of this awkward marital drama. That's like the friend breaks the rule of 180 to show this transition, awkwardly cutting so that Oscar Isaac now switches to the right side of the frame. And Mark affirms that while he did not kill Layla's dad, he was still there.
Shot me too. I was supposed to die today.
I'm assuming this partner was Frenchie Ducamp, whose name appeared on Mark's flip phone. Promo footage has shown the moment Mark first got possessed by Khonshu. I assume next episode or episode 6 will show us what this backstory was. Harrow and his men arrive.
The rest is silence.
Yes, another Shakespeare reference. After Macbeth's Something Wicked in episode 1 and the Romeo and Juliet Verona Light of episode 2, the rest is silence are the final words spoken by Hamlet in Hamlet. After his long, drawn-out death from being cut with a poisoned sword in his duel with Laertes. After that cut, Hamlet actually goes on and on for nearly 100 lines. So, Shakespeare ends his life with those words and also a self-satirical tone, like the kid finally shutting up after going back and forth on death for 5 acts. When you think about it, the line is actually a pretty good pun. The rest is silence. But also, the rest is silence. And in this, we can draw a comparison with Mark, whom much speculation has wondered might already be dead. And this whole series is his passage through the field of reeds.
And did it suck me? Getting rejected from the field of reeds?
Well, that don't make sense, because I'm not dead, am I?
Steady, babe.
And Harrow is now preparing to lay the final nail in the coffin. Harrow does this by shooting Mark twice in the chest. And Mark slowly falls backward, matching the fall last episode when he blacked out. Similarly, Mark is out of control, not sure what form he's going to wake up in. Because he passes out from overhead in just inches of water, but when we cut to him from below, we are now several meters deeper than him in that water as he descends into this sunken place. Where now you'll notice the bullet holes are gone from his chest, showing how Mark has sunken from his passage of the field of reeds. Now more like that sunken boat and poor sarcophagus in the tank, as we saw Mark reflected, submerged.
Sarcophagus.
Now, clearly, Moon Knight is redefining the future of the Marvel hero. Now we find ourselves in this low-budget jungle set of Tomb Buster, a title clearly an Indiana Jones ripoff, even its name a nod to the Tomb Raider franchise. But this scene is totally similar to the opening of Raiders of the Lost Ark, when Indy and Doc Ock found the remains of the previous adventurer. Even the music sting is almost note for note John Williams' Indiana Jones theme.
Light this up. It's not Potter.
Khonshu is kind of a dick. This whole twist is awesome. Several characters from the cast reappear, all of them now in this facility. Street performer Crawley is now calling bingo numbers, pulling
Oh, I didn't notice that was him.
the same way his hat was always laid out in front of him in the park. The bald man fidgets with a Rubik's Cube, almost completing the white side as we saw in Steven's flat. I'm pretty sure that's the tour guide Dylan, Steven's date.
Oh, shit.
The orderlies are Bobby, aka
Wow, so he might be
pointed that
actually
out.
crazy.
pushing us from Mark's point of view.
Yeah, I was like, those are the people that.
Yeah, I noticed that most of them was there.
Because in the comics, Billy and Bobby are the names of orderlies who work in Mark's mental hospital. Also, in the comics, Crawley is revealed to be another resident in the hospital at some point, the same way he is here. The red, yellow, and blue bowls of Jello are just like the brightly colored powder in all the bowls that Steven saw in the mummification room. Donna is another patient, clutching one of the plush scarabs.
See, that's the one I noticed when we was watching it.
Throughout this, we hear the ticking of a clock, which we pass right after we see Donna, but it looks like it reads 11:25, but the hour hand ends in the shape of a crescent moon. But despite the ticking sound, the second hand of that clock is not moving. There's a cupcake cart, just like the cupcake van that Stephen Hyde. She sketches a hummingbird with Khonshu's skull, both Khonshu, of course, but also the hummingbird we saw in the commune's nature footage. On the dry erase board are pinned some postcards, like the one Stephen thinks he receives from his mom. Here, it is Layla who does it, so maybe the mom he thought he was connecting with was actually Layla. There's a goldfish, like Gus, on a stack of books, just like Gus's tank, and Stephen's flat that is cluttered with books.
Wow, everything.
On a Turkish delight, just like the ones that the forger shared with her in episode 3. A lot of sweet snacks in this facility.
What is happening, bro? What the fuck?
With a red drawing
Nah, this show's fire.
on it. This is
I can't wait for the explanations in the next 2 episodes.
Could be an adaptation of Abdul Faul, aka the Scarlet Scarab, an Egyptian warrior who led the Sons of the Scarab who fought against the invaders, Cap, Human Torch, Namor, Bucky, Spitfire, and Union Jack. As other titles have done, retconning Flag Smasher as Carly Morgenthau and Laura Barton as Mockingbird, Layla could be reframed as the successor of a lineage of Egyptian protectors. A man behind them gardens, like the gardeners at Harrow's commune. Layla says he won at bingo, holding up his card that shows the following numbers dabbed: B83, I23, N86, G65, G35, O67.
These are the comic book editions.
We heard Crawley call out the numbers B22, G15, T16, O40 something, O73, and N39. Folks, if you've ever played bingo, these numbers make no sense. The B numbers go 1 through 15, I is 16 through 30, N is 31 through 45,
I never won
G
bingo
is 46
before.
through 60, and O is 61 through 75. Most of these letters and numbers
I'm never going to bingo for real, like to go gamble. I know people that do that
I
though.
did that in middle school.
Do that.
and there is no
Go to Foxwoods.
bingo. In high school Spanish class,
Is
they
it all
play
there?
a Spanish version of bingo called Tingo, where you say, yo, Tingo, I have it.
Yo, Tingo, I have it.
Inside his wheelchair, but the harness on his ankle causes him to fall on the exact same side of his face that he fell in episode 1 when he landed in the Alps, and episode 2 when he leapt out of bed. I love how those two moments set up this reveal here. In his hand is his hooded and caped Moon Knight action figure, which if Moon Knight ain't a really known hero in the MCU at this point, would there be an action figure of him? Also, another weird thing, what was he dabbing his bingo card with? I didn't see a dabber in his hand. Then on to Harrow's office, Mark sees his painting of the exact landscape of the Alps where Stephen found himself in episode 1. But Harrow, now the analyst of this facility, says,
We don't live in a material world. We live in a psychic world.
And Harrow's office even has a bizarre design. Big columns, tall ceilings, brick surfaces, and arches. There's these headed bases, just like the ones that the priests stored the organs inside of in the tomb. One has the falcon head of Ra, as well as the hippo head of Taweret, and then this human head that we think matches the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great. Harrow has a cane that Mark assumes that he must have mapped the Amen staff over. And of course sandals, just like the ones he fills with glass. And notice how Mark sees those sandals through the reflection of a mirror. A housefly lands on Mark's hand, maybe a reflection of his rotting corpse status back in the tomb. Also reminding us of the final shot of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, when Norman Bates' other voice said that she wouldn't even have a little fly that landed on her. Also on the desk are a bunch of sharp things that should not be on a desk of this kind of facility. There's a large curved piece that matches the shape of a crescent moon, as well as a pyramid. And if you look closely at that VHS cover of Tomb Buster, it says, "When deeper in here, Stephen Grant has no fear." Which isn't the
Interesting.
case in the final shot of the episode, but maybe a clue that Stephen Grant in a place like this is going to be a more heroic figure. Dr. Harrow says,
Can't help you if you don't help yourself.
which is what Harrow said after shooting Stephen in that tomb.
I can't save anyone who won't save themselves.
another statue, the crocodile head of Amit. And as Harrow steps up to Mark at the door, he's just framed with this close-up of his hand on the cane, the way he's been framed in several other shots, like the opening scene of the series. As Mark flees, the hallways just warp, the carts are rolling on their own, the hanging lights just swing back and forth, looking a lot like the swinging scales of Amit's justice. We've also been seeing this hallway in the closing credits imagery, flickering from the storage unit hallway into this one. And if you remember back in episode 2, the way Steven ran down that hallway is the same way Mark runs down this one. Both of these forming a maze in his mind. In one room, he finds this sarcophagus.
Mark?
This is the first time that the two altars have actually touched physically, suggesting that they are in the same sunken place inside of his mind. They actually had Oscar Isaac's brother, Michael Hernandez, stand in for him during these scenes. The smooth camera work makes it look like we never cut from Oscar Isaac at the door to Oscar Isaac coming out of the sarcophagus, but you can see there is a hidden cut on the whip pan. I also like here how Mark is dressed in lifeguard, whereas Steven is dressed in darker clothes, which not only helps us distinguish the two, but also frames which one of these two altars is closer to Khonshu. Mark notices another mysterious sarcophagus that shakes in another room that they don't open. I'm assuming that this is going to be the mystery third altar, maybe Jake Lockley, whoever it was who stabbed those men on the brief last episode. And then we end on this awesome moment.
Hi.
So this is Taweret, the Egyptian deity of childbirth and fertility, who takes on the appearance of a hippopotamus, but with otherwise human features, the kind of features Disney Plus definitely had to go with a more modest wardrobe. I just love the hippopotamus animation details that they added, like the way her ears wiggle when she says hi, and the way her nostrils flare. She's voiced by actress Antonia Salib, confirmed at the red carpet premiere last month, and she's credited for this episode as well as episodes 5 and 6.
Oh,
We
shit.
spent a lot of time with her. So what is going on? Well, the Moon Knight comics, especially the Jeff Lemire and
That's a
Gore
dope cover.
run that seems most influential on this series, constantly shift back and forth from Mark's supernatural experiences to a clinical setting, repeatedly making the reader second guess what could be real and what could be a delusion.
That's
This state of
dope.
uncertainty is exactly what Moon Knight is supposed to feel like. And there's enough surreality and falseness in both Mark and Steven's experiences in the outside world and their experiences in the hospital to doubt the legitimacy of either reality. Even before Taweret walks in, no mental hospital looks like this. There's cupcake carts. Meanwhile, all the Indiana Jones stuff this episode was also super silly and fictitious. So is anything on this show real? Well, I see 3 explanations. First explanation, the past episodes with Steven and Mark in the outside world was all a fantasy constructed by a patient in a mental hospital, a patient who still suffers from delusions while in this hospital. Kind of like how all of St. Elsewhere was in the mind of autistic child Tommy Westfall. Patient who dreamt all this up might be neither Mark nor Steven. If you think about it, are both pretty heightened realities.
Yeah, so it could be the third person.
The guy in the other sarcophagus, maybe Jake. Explanation 2. Everything we have seen happen pre-hospital is real, but now, after he got shot, Mark slipped into a kind of limbo state deep in his subconscious that takes the form of a mental hospital filled with people.
That's how I feel was going on.
Like Dorothy Gale after she hit her head and went to Oz, or like Tony Soprano when he had that hallucination after he got shot.
Overloaded
Explanation
Soprano.
3. Mark Spector has already been in the process of dying. A long, drawn-out process like our boy Hamlet. And this whole time, he has been passing through the field of reeds. The brooms were the reeds, folks. All 4 of these episodes, a purgatorial judgment process for a man with DID to reach peace with his altars before the rest is silence. I mean, I don't know, but this third explanation might help us understand what this hospital now is, why it is filled with sarcophagi and Taweret. Now, yes, the hindquarters of Amit are that of a hippopotamus. Maybe they're going to draw a parallel with Amit being 3 in 1, the way Mark is. And here, Amit's altars are depicted as separate people. But again, Taweret is her own deity, the goddess of fertility. I don't see how fertility applies much to what Steven and Mark are going through, but there was a connection in the past. If you remember episode 1, when Steven handled some of those plush Tawerets while doing inventory in the museum.
Bring those hippos up here, will you?
Yeah, sure. Taweret. Hitler. Goddess Taweret.
Which is why I think there could be more to the images of this episode. The wall filled with the Ishaptis. Dozens and dozens of gods trapped somewhere. There was that one interesting line from Dr. Harrow where he quoted the villain of Toonbuster.
No tree can ascend to the light of heaven if it doesn't descend to the depths of hell.
Heaven and hell, above and below. Khonshu accused the members of the Ennead for hiding in the Overvoid. Now, I think we could be in the MCU's Underworld. A realm that may end up going by many names in the MCU, maybe even has already been introduced. The world will be reality
the
manifests
astral
itself in
plane.
the eyes of the beholder. To a DID patient, a mental hospital with Egyptian flair. Because trapped in and with this realm of Mark and his altars and projections of people in his life are the other Egyptian gods that the Ennead banished to the underworld. Amet, Khonshu, and this sexy ass Taweret. No tree can ascend to the heavens without descending to the depths of hell is also a paraphrase of a quote from famous philosopher and psychoanalyst Carl Jung, who said, quote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots are in hell." This was Jung's way of saying human enlightenment is impossible unless we recognize our inner demons that collectively haunt us. This being a reflection of this stage in Mark's hero's journey to descend into hell before he can reach true consciousness.
Interesting.
And since a stone Ushabti of Taweret appears in the credits of every episode, and presumably also in that wall of cubbyholes with all the other stone Ushabtis who have been exiled somewhere, that right there may be proof that we are now in the Duat, the underworld, that all exiled gods are trapped in, and Mark's soul is currently with them. Back in episode 2, when Stephen was handed a pamphlet to seek help
told
from a
you he was
mental health
dead.
facility, this may all now be how his subconscious, the subconscious of a DID patient, decorates the Egyptian underworld of the Duat. This show's version of the MCU afterlife, the ancestral plane, Valhalla, wherever the hell Thanos went to. In this case, how
That's
this
interesting,
hero
bro.
takes the plunge into the depths of hell and prepares to fight his way back out of it. And a reminder to check out our merch options at NewRockstarsMerch.com.
There was a lot.
A lot of info, right?
Yeah, a lot of info that they covered.
So,
They get so much stuff into that episode.
bro, I really be wondering, like, one thing I be like so intrigued on after watching these is like, yo, the intentionalness of things is like beyond like what you think. Like, how like Marvel has thought this shit out like to the deepest detail if some of these things are correct.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm planning since episode 1 for you to find something in episode 4 to make it all make sense for you to have this theory and shit like that.
So
So
they want you to play detective
yeah.
while you're watching the show, and I think that's the best interaction shows could have. So I think that's why I like the new Rockstar. I think he's definitely needed for this this era of shows, and because the breakdowns, it makes it's more to the story, and it's like you're getting more for your buck.
Yeah, especially when a series like this that basically plays with the idea of what's illusion, what's real, what's not. So I feel like with this one, you have to pay so much attention to the clues because those little things will allow you to realize what's reality, what's illusion, what's in his mind. So I like how with this series they play on that completely. Like I believe the second theory of a certain portion of the shows happen, and this portion right now that we are in is his purgatory, his underworld or overvoid thing that he's in right now.
Yeah, this was definitely a dope breakdown. Just because like you guys just said, there's certain things you just don't see, and Eric Voss does a good job at pointing those things out, and Marvel does a good job at kind of keeping them hidden within their series because we saw that with WandaVision. They were giving you hints on who the villain was. I like the theory about the dude from the Tomb, or was it called Tomb Busters movie?
Tomb Busters.
Yeah, and they're saying that he might actually be the villain after all, like versus the other dude being the actual villain. So I mean, I like
They were
that.
saying that he's the same person.
I'm like,
They said
what?
that,
No,
like,
They never said anything like
They
that.
didn't say that he was.
they were saying that
he's the same
they
person?
said that
'Cause
like
they
with
said
the
that-
show
they said that
plays
it
on
was
the idea of
replicas.
who's the actual villain. So it's like with him, he resembles Steven.
Yeah, that's
so
what
you
I'm
really
saying.
don't know who's, but not the actual
Person in the
that's
movie, yeah.
It was just playing on the identities of the people in the show. How you really can't pinpoint who's the actual villain.
I thought
Because they said he
that
looks
was
similar
actually-
to Arthur Harrold, and he does a lot of things that Arthur Harrold
Yeah, that's
does.
why I thought it was. That's why I thought they had alluded and said that. It goes to show, like, is this dude actually the real villain? I swear they said something like that, bro.
Yeah, they're saying
I
that you
swear
really
they
can't
said
choose
is he
because they
actually-
said
yeah.
like, and then his next statement was like, "Yo, because Khonshu could be classified as a villain because we don't like what his intentions actually are and stuff like that." So it's like, because think about it, the dude's name was Stephen Grant, and Stephen Grant is one of the personalities involved with Mark and everything, but the dude resembles
villain.
Arthur.
Yeah,
So that's
they
why
even
it's
said
like,
the
so-
kid could be a play on Stephen and Mark's character.
Yeah.
That's what they said too. And then how they relates to Indiana Jones and all. They did a lot, but I can see why you were confused on that. I do love number one. I will say that when I'm watching a Marvel show, it's gonna be impossible for me to catch on to this shit. So I'm very happy that we have channels like New Rockstar to help break it down, because I would never be able to catch on so much of this. And even like they had people translate what was said on a scarab and a lot of other hieroglyphics that we've seen in the show. So that's helpful too. I do believe that he's dead. Actually, I don't even know. Now that I think about it some more, I know he's dead in the afterworld somehow. But like in terms of like
fully,
I don't know.
Man.
What's
I
the
don't
thing?
know,
Thing.
bro.
Like, I really don't know if he's dead. I don't know. I like that theory of when they were saying like the thing with all the gods being in that prison and that's a purgatory that they kind of go to. I kind of like that theory, but I still don't even know based off of that if that tells me that he's really dead, because it seems like it's jail.
But does that mean that all these people in there are all avatars to the other gods that were maybe missing, or you know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. So you're saying the people that's in that overvoid asylum could be the previous avatars to the gods
that are already in there.
That's already in there.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Possible. I mean, I feel like he's in a dying process. I don't think he's dead, but I think he's dying, and that's allowing him to be in that place right there. And then I think those gods that were trapped were gonna help him get out of that place.
Because if the hippo was on the wall and there was a statue, I forgot what they call it, and that same hippo goddess happens to be in this afterworld place, then it makes sense that the avatars who have been locked up or who've been sealed away, or the gods that have been sealed away, are also in this place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because it seems like Steven and Mark, at least from what we've seen, Mark, I guess I would say, he hasn't fully been he hasn't been sold on the idea of this place. He still is kind of in his own mind, and I feel like that's why she went to them. Like, yo, all these other people, man, all the other avatars, they got smoked already. Like, y'all still thinking? All right, cool. Let's try to free everybody and get us back. The little girl statement at the beginning is what I keep going back to, though, because I remember in the first episode thinking that was really weird.
Yeah,
like how she was like, yo, like, how does it feel that you like didn't pass the judgment of whatever the reads or whatever? He's like, what do you mean? I'm not dead. So like, I feel like in a way that's where he is dead in some type of way. And like, even the way Khonshu said it, like when I met you, like, yo, you was basically dead. So did he actually die in that actual situation? And now I don't know. It could be so many things.
But I mean, that'll be a false contract, though. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because you feel me? Like, then that contract was never made. Because if he came up to him while he was dying to basically give him life, but in exchange to do his bidding as a god, then he was never alive to even do his bidding. You know what I'm saying?
Shit, man, that's Eric Voss. Hit my line, bro. I got some questions. Yo, I got some questions, bro. I'm interested to see what we get at these next 2 episodes. So it seems like from the information he has that we're gonna see a lot more of Taweret. Oh, I forgot what the heck the hippo's name is. HEW something.
Taweret.
It doesn't begin with an H?
It's with a T.
Oh. It begins with a T.
Taweret or something? Okay, cool.
With a T.
Something like that, man. The hippo?
Taweret.
That's what it is.
In it, yeah.
So it seems like we're going to see a lot more of Taweret, man. I'm interested to see where this character goes and what the hell we get. By episode 6, I could tell I'm just going to be like... Mind blown. So you make sure y'all keep it locked here with RTTV. We'll be back next week for another Easter egg, and we'll definitely be here for episode 5. So make sure you'll have that notification bell ringing for the channel. If it's your first time here, it definitely won't be your last. Make sure you kill, murder, and smash that subscribe button, man. In the comments, tell us what explanation you think is the correct explanation so far. And let's see how many of us are right, man.
Damn, I got more theories in my head. Patrick RT.
It's your boy Rob City RT.
It's a man, the myth, the maniac, _RT.
And it's your boy Wells, the anime king.
And that settles it at the round table.